since 2002. We have a very exciting event tonight. It's the one event during the year where we focus on job searching and moving up in your own industry. So you don't have to be a job searcher, but you have to be somebody that is okay with where they are right now, but really you like to be up there, have the boss's job. So we're going to teach you how to do that tonight. We have an excellent leader of this, Lisa Sasso. I've known Lisa since 2004, and in 2005 and 6, she was my co-chair on program committee, and we put all the programs together. Now it takes a team of 20 to do it, but Lisa did a lot of that back then. Lisa has transitioned from being a CEO of a medical device company to being an certified executive coach. And she works with medical device leaders, CEOs. One of her foci is on work-life balance, and she's done an excellent job. Her son, John Robert, is here to demonstrate the excellent job she's done in balancing work and life. He's great. So Lisa's work goes beyond just the coaching of individuals. She reaches out to people from all walks of life, people who read and benefit from her motivational messages that she sends out to people that are part of her network of people who are coached. She's written a whole book on the subject, and I think that's available to purchase if you like. She's also an inspiring motivational speaker. I heard about her performance Monday at a Toastmasters meeting. So she really is good at many different things. When she was the leader of a company called Ratty Medical Systems for 6 years, she grew sales from nothing to $28 million in just a few years. Lisa came to MDG in about 2004, and she became the second president of MDG for a year until she got pregnant with John Robert. So she has a BBA in marketing and a BA in economics from the University of Massachusetts, and she earned an MBA from Bentley, graduating with high distinction. Her high school sweetheart is here, John, somewhere. There he is. And she and John have been together since she was 15. So I won't say how many years they're together. And when she's not spending her time with her son and family, she'll usually be taking photos, journaling, or planning a party. My own experience with Lisa, she's a phenomenal person, a wonderful, giving person who really cares about everybody that she gets in contact with. And if you have a chance and haven't had one already, I suggest you get to meet Lisa and say hi. And with that, Lisa Sasso.
Very nice introduction. It's great to see everybody here tonight, and I hope that everybody had a bit to eat and was able to start doing some networking, because I want to leave some time at the end so we can play a game that will be fun and entertaining, and also have some time to network. We do have some drawings tonight. We typically don't have drawings, but because it's a special event and because this is the 12th annual, each time I try to do something a little different or add something a little more to it. We are having a drawing for a Power Networking CD, for a copy of my book, Motivation Now, and also 1 hour with me for coaching. And finally, a resume writer has given us an hour of his time. So there'll be 4 drawings. So you're here on a very special night. And without further ado, before I get into the program, I want to introduce Carolyn Carlson, and she's from J. Hilborn, and that was our sponsor for this evening. So if she could come up and just say a couple words.
We're also doing a raffle. In fact, I got some of your cards already. If anybody's interested in putting their card in, if you could take it out and pass it down, and then what we'll do is, Lisa, you can actually poll the name. Okay. I'm going to do 3 raffles. Okay. Giving away a $100 gift certificate for 3 people tonight. Since everybody's here, I can run the setup, so we'll be able to do that tonight, and I'll get the rest of the names that are out there. Okay, so if anybody didn't notice, we're the elephant in the room, we're the clothier in the corner. Maybe some of you are wondering why we're here, but everybody needs to get dressed. And we are an e-commerce custom men's clothier. Doesn't mean, ladies, you shouldn't put your card in. You should, because chances are there's some man in your life you need to buy for, either a father, an uncle, a brother, a son, or a husband. So please send your cards just over and I'll collect them. But we are an e-commerce company. Real quickly, we do not have a traditional storefront, so that traditional markup is gone. So we bring affordable pricing with custom fit. We use the finest fabric sourced from Italian mills that are named in the world, that the top designers in the world pull from. You don't have to go to a store. We come to you. We also have a showroom in Boston that just opened this summer at 1 Beacon Street at a WeWork facility, which is a great option for a lot of people in Massachusetts. Or I will come to you. And lastly, we have a 90-day warranty, which is huge in the custom world. So if something comes in and you need it tweaked, we will completely do a remake, or we can completely take it back. That said, we have a 97% reorder rate. The goal here is to get your fit nailed so you're happy with how it fits, and then you can order online anywhere in the world. You're getting knowing you're getting the best fit, the best quality fabric, the best price, and you can all do it from the convenience of your lab or your office or your home. So thank you again, and if you want to pass the cards over, I'll go get the box.
Okay, thank you.
The pumpkin is a different raffle.
Yes, the pumpkin is the raffles that I just mentioned before. And each of you should have a networking packet that you got today. And I just want to mention a few things to you about this packet. You'll have How to Work a Room, which is from Diane Darling, and that's a very good resource. You'll have our mission statement, because we will be writing a mission statement tonight. And there's a yellow drawing page that I just want to point out to you, because it says at the top, Circle 1, MC or Resume. And that stands for, resume is for if you're interested in having your resume reviewed or looked at, and MC stands for a minor consult. So if you want a consultation, a free consultation, you can circle that. And at the very bottom of the sheet, do you want to receive motivational messages? You can check yes or no. This is the only way you would be added to any mailing list. Any of the drawings that I'm doing are not going on a mailing list. That's just strictly for the drawings. So I just wanted to tell you that up front. And while you have that yellow sheet out, I should have you write on the back the position that you desire to have, and then if there's target companies, because this yellow sheet is the only thing that I'm going to get back at the end of the night. And I spend a good deal of my time talking to recruiters and individuals, and if I'm able to know a little bit more about you, I'm able to share some data, and it would be helpful to have the name of the position, and again, either some target companies or something about you that's special. So now I want to congratulate you for coming here tonight, for fighting traffic, for being present. And I want to have a little fun and see who is in the room. And we're going to start it with who's in the room for the first time. If you've never been to MDG and this is your first time here, please stand up. Wow. Wow, if I was to say, that looks like about 85%. Very good. Give yourselves a hand. Now we're going to do the reverse of that. I'm going to show you who the veterans are in the group. If you've been in the medical device arena for a year or more, please stand up. Okay, excellent. Stay standing, wait, stay standing. If you've been in it for 5 or more years, keep standing. We lost a couple. Okay, how about 10 or more years? Okay, lost a couple more. 15 years? Oh, big drop right there. 20 years. All right, there's still a couple out there. And I'm still standing for more than 20 years too. 25 years. Wow. Give yourselves a round of applause. That's great. I didn't dare go to 30. All right, excellent. So now, what brought you here? We saw that 85% of the people are here for the first time. So was it because of the stellar speakers that we're going to have tonight? Some people? Okay, good. How about, was it for the special guests that are going to share pearls of wisdom? Some people? Okay. Was it to come up with your value statement so you can go home and say to your spouse, yes, I did something productive at this networking event? Oh, all right. Good. And, or was it to learn some key facts and figures about the industry? Does anybody? Okay, good. And finally, was it for the awesome networking that is taking place before and will take place later? All right, excellent. Well, great. So now we know why you're here. Let's find out who's in the room. So I'm going to start by saying titles, and you're going to stand up when your title is called, because that way you can find other people that have like titles as yourself. So first, we'll start with a marketeer. Marketing people, stand up. Where's our marketing groups? Okay. You can look around and see who your marketing fellow friends are. Excellent, you can sit down. Finance and accounting, I grouped that together. All right, Eric Walters. And right there, there's 2, oh, there's 3. One in the back too, okay. Excellent. How about HR? No HR in the house. How about attorneys? No attorneys in the house. Oh, there's one. I'll have to be careful with what I say then. How about clinicals, MDs, RNs? 2 of you see each other so you can network later. Okay. Customer service? No customer service. Sales? That's always a good group. Excellent. See your fellow salespeople so that you can network with them. Consultants. Okay, sales and consultants, huh? All right, wonderful. IT. No, oh, good, there's one IT person.
No more?
There's another IT. Right there, there's 3 of you. Education. Is there anybody from Regis or education? Excellent, there you are. Scientists. Any scientists in the room? Yay, stand proud. Look at, wow, that's a good number for scientists. 7, 8 scientists. Phenomenal. Service providers. 2, 3, 4. 4 of you, okay? Recruiters. Let's see where the recruiters are. There's 1 front. I know ProSource is here. I know Mark is here, and I know a couple other people that are here, but they're not standing right now. So Phil, you get all the attention. And now for that small little group that this company started and was based on was beer and pizza with 4 gentlemen, and they were a bunch of engineers. Is there, let's see. This is always the biggest one, that's why I save it for last. Wow, give yourself a hand. Excellent, excellent. Well, that's always fun to do, to see who else comes to these meetings and what their interest is and who you can network with. So now, without further ado, the next thing I want to do is tell you some reasons why you would want to be in medical. And first of all, you're at the right place at MDG. This group has grown from its strapping beginnings with Pizzeria Uno, and it's a fun place to be, and the people, when you get to know them, become more like family than associates. And that's really nice when you go each month and you can come back to your MDG family. So I'm going to share with you, this is from Mass Medic's Device Overview. It was KPMG, and it was done in May 5th of 2015. But this is the latest statistics with Massachusetts, so that I could really share with you some Massachusetts industry trends. How many companies do you think, medical device companies, do you think we have in Massachusetts? Anybody know? Ooh, who said that? You're right on the money. 480. He said 500. God bless you. So more or less, it's about 480 companies, which is a good number of companies in this space. And why do you think that we have so many companies? What does Massachusetts or Boston have that other communities and states don't have? Universities and hospitals. All right, Marie, you get a gold star tonight. But we do. We have some of the best hospitals and best universities. And in fact, what % of people do you think have some sort of degree? It can be an associate degree, it could be partial bachelor's, or these are for adult-aged men and women. 65%, David Kaufman in the front. Way to go. And if there, what % of the people do you think have bachelor's degrees? Any? More than 20. 40, I heard 43, it's 45. So 45% of those people have bachelor degrees. And lastly, what % of them have STEM degrees? For, you know what STEM stands for? Science, technology, engineering, and math? Okay. What % do you think? A little lower. A little lower. 25% have STEM degrees. So you can see it's a vibrant area with people that are academically excellent in Massachusetts. Then there comes to employment. And if you look at the 50 states, where do you think Massachusetts ranks? Who said that? Who was checking out my notes before this meeting? We are third, and we're behind whom? California is 1, and they have 1.7, and Minneapolis, Minnesota is number 2, and they have 6.3, and Massachusetts stands at 6.0, so they're only 0.3 ahead of us. And a couple years back, it was flip-flopped the other way, and Massachusetts was second, and Minneapolis was third. So they're catching, we need to regain our spot, but we're third. Now, Massachusetts top states in federal R&D and VCs. So what % do you think are ranked for overall federal R&D funding received? What do you think we're ranked? Nope, not 1. Number 2, that's right. We're ranked 2 for that. And how about overall VC funding? Two. And in fact, it's 1% of GDP. And we're ranked what number in terms of angel investors? We're ranked 2, behind California and before Texas. So you guys are very good at this. But we're a leader in the technology IP licenses. So Massachusetts is ranked what in terms of IP licenses held by hospitals, research institutes, and universities? Number 1, that's correct. And Massachusetts is ranked what in terms of PMAs and 510Ks approval?
1.
Nope, 2. We're number 2. And do you know what a 510K is or a PMA? For people that are here for the first time, you might not know that a PMA means that there's no predicate device, there's no nothing to show prior art with, where a 510K, there is prior art and there is a predicate device. And overall patents, where do you think we stand? Not 1, not 2, 3. But these are pretty exciting statistics. I mean, when I was looking this stuff up and seeing where we're ranked number 1 and number 2, and occasionally in places number 3, that's pretty great. So medical device, Massachusetts is ranked number what in overall device exports? We're ranked number 3, but per capita we're ranked number 2. And finally, Massachusetts ranks what number in medical device exports as a percent of total exports across all industries? We're number 1, that's correct. So, then there's something called mergers and acquisitions, which there's been a lot of in the last few years. And does anybody know the 2 companies that merged in 2015? Medtronic and Covidien, that's correct. And that was a $42.9 billion deal. And how about Thermo Fisher merged with Life Sciences, and that was a $14 billion deal. So that's phenomenal. And that just shows you the strength of the Massachusetts economy. Now I want you to get involved and want to give you an exercise to do. And this is called your value statement. And you have that in your packet. It's the white sheet of paper. I'll read you mine, and then we're going to put yours into this. But then you state your name, I, Lisa Sasso, help, aid, assist, or empower. So I, Lisa Sasso, empower who? Medical device professionals to achieve their professional and personal goals with confidence, accountability, balance, and gratitude. So you want to put in your name so that you have your whole value statement. I, Lisa Sasso, empower medical device professionals to achieve their personal and professional goals with accountability, balance, and gratitude. So before I join my comrades over there, I'm going to tell you my personal story. Have you ever imagined wanting more out of life? To pursue your personal goal as well as your professional goals? To truly honor your values and to live your life in balance and maybe even in gratitude? Well, if this resonates with you, that's exactly who I am and what I do. My name's Lisa Sasso, and I'm a medical device coach and a professional speaker. And I'm known as the med dev coach, because I too transitioned into the medical device arena. I help people both go into and within, and I transitioned more than 20 years ago into medical after leaving a successful career in retail. My first job was Senior Selling Systems Analyst for the medical device company of C.R. Bard, USCI division. And I used my transferable finance and accounting skills to get into that route. I tell people if you are finance or accounting or economics, you have an easy way into some of these medical companies. And I was fortunate enough to be promoted 3 times in 3 years. And I reported under the auspices of 3 different presidents. And they nurtured me. They mentored me. And the first thing they told me was I needed to get my MBA. I had a BBA in marketing and a BA in economics. So I went to Bentley and got my MBA. Second, they told me to do special projects. And I was put in charge of forecasting by product line the division's revenues both quarterly and monthly for a $100 million corporation. So that gave me vast experience. And lastly, they helped me prepare for my new role of being president and CEO of Ratty Medical Systems. They helped prepare me for that. Ratty Medical Systems is a wholly owned subsidiary of a Swedish parent company. I was responsible for sales, marketing, distribution, and clinical studies. And me and my team grew revenues from 0 to $28 million in 5 years with profitability. And life was good at Ratty. I enjoyed my job, but I left Ratty to pursue an even bigger passion, one of motherhood. I was married for 15 years and together with my husband for 23 years before our little miracle child entered the world. And he came in against all odds because when I was pregnant, they told me that the baby would be severe cardiac defects. And they told me that there was less than a 50% chance that the baby would be born or make it to birth. But I took it as there's a 50% chance that this baby's going to make it, and he is going to make it, and he did. And he has gone through quite a number of surgeries. When he was first born, he was just on medication around the clock, and he was in cardiac intensive care. And he stayed there for a month. And after that, he got to come home with us, and we had medication around the clock for 3.5 years. And the only thing he did was go to Children's Hospital to check out with EKGs and echoes and things, and everything was normal. Was normal as it was progressing. And at 3.5 years old, he had ablation surgery and open heart surgery. And he did very well. In fact, he bounced back quickly and he was back in school. And when he was in school after open heart surgery, I took it to go back to school myself to this time get a certification in coaching so that I could be the best coach that I could be. And that would, to be the best coach that I could be. And he grew and did dancing, drama, Boy Scouts, basketball, singing, and swimming. And as he grew, my business grew, and we grew together. And just this past summer, fast forwarding 8 years, he needed another open heart surgery on August 29th. So just about 6 weeks ago. And he did again swimmingly. He was out of the hospital in 4 days. The first time he had open heart surgery, he was there 14 days. So he was there 4 days. He was back in school 2 weeks later, and he's now back to doing his normal activities with dancing, drama, and Boy Scouts. So he's doing phenomenal, and he makes me proud and to be his mom. So again, I'm forever grateful to Children's, because Children's has been so good to us and our family. We have the #1 cardiologist, Pedro Del Nido, and he's #1 in the world. So to know that your child is being taken care of by the best is reassuring. And that's why I wrote my book, Motivation Now. It's a story, short stories of personal reflections put together, and with room to write notes and to, they come from motivational messages. And I donate back to Children's 50% of all the proceeds from my book. So the book goes for $12.99 normally. I sell it for $10, and $5 goes to Children's. So if you want to get a copy of the book tonight, you can, and I'll sign it, and your donation will go there. But with all this happiness going on, I know how it feels to sometimes be stuck, to sometimes have things spinning, and to need another opinion. And for those 3 reasons, I want to offer my services as the MedDev coach to be able to help you if you need assistance. And again, I told you about the yellow piece of paper that at the top has MC, and that's a mini consultation. If you want that, it's only a 15 to 20-minute talk with me, and I can help you to see if there's anything that I could do for you. So, and I offer that to you because you're here at MDG and you're participating. Because passion, balance, success, integrity, and family, those are my 5 core values. What are yours? I look forward to learning more about yours and to learning more about the values of the panel that we have here tonight. So without further ado, I want to go over and I want to welcome our panel of experts, and we'll talk about transitioning. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, my name's Steve Colbert. Insert joke here. I'm an engineering manager for a company called Cardio Focus in Marlborough, Massachusetts.
My name is Andrea Cahill, and I'm an electrical engineer for Boston Scientific.
I'm Keith Fauché. I'm Director of Research and Analytical Chemistry for Yettinga.
Excellent. And now we'll start with Keith and have him start with his personal story. So each panelist is going to tell their career story, the big picture, starting with where they went to school and their major, and subsequent job history.
Okay, sure. So I have always had a love for science. And so my high school biology and chemistry teachers got me excited to pursue a degree at the University of New Hampshire. And I went into chemistry, but so I graduated from UNH with a bachelor's in chemistry, but a minor in microbiology. During my work, during my thesis at UNH, I basically was studying how to apply lipid membranes for chemical detection. And during my research, I found a professor at the University of Georgia who was doing some very similar research, but focused on investigating how long surfactant proteins worked. And so I decided to go down there, and he had room in his research group. So I went down to the University of Georgia, did my doctoral thesis with him, and during my graduate work, we collaborated with Professor Elliot Chaikoff who was at Emory University at the time. And basically, the results of our work resulted in a paper. But at that time, when I was nearing the end of my dissertation work, and he basically invited me to come speak with him at Emory, and basically as a result of our conversation, he offered me a postdoctoral position. And that position was really key in my career development for medical devices because his group was really structured like a small startup. So there's 15 different postdocs of various disciplines, engineering, I represented chemistry and material science, there was biochemistry, synthetic chemistry. But there is where I really learned how to apply what I knew to basically producing a product, which were basically creating biomimetic coatings onto vascular grafts was the project that I was working on. I was there as a postdoc, and then I transitioned to research faculty, and then sort of came to a decision of that I wasn't interested in continuing with an academic career, wanted to work in an industrial environment. And so then from there, I transitioned and got a job at Atrium Medical Corporation, which was located in Hudson, New Hampshire. And it was really advantageous when I started at Atrium because right at that point in their history, they were starting to develop novel lipid absorbable coatings to coat their hernia mesh products, as well as going into working on a couple different drug-eluting stent programs. So I started originally as a product development engineer, working on coating some antithrombogenic coatings on vascular grafts. But during the course of my work, I was always curious what other people were working on and what their projects were. So I talked to different engineers and asked them, hey, what are you working on? And so then we would get talking, they might say like, hey, I really don't understand what happened to my material. It went through sterilization, it's more brittle now, I don't really understand what's going on. So then I would offer to collaborate with them and say, hey, I got to run some of my own samples with some of our analytical techniques. Why don't you give me your samples and these controls, and I'll see what I can figure out. So as a result of doing that, after a year and a half of being at Atrium, that really, the VP of R&D at the time decided that my role was not best served as a product development engineer, was actually better as being a research scientist and then starting to build the analytical chemistry group at the company. And then as we got the launch of our hernia mesh product line, which is the Secure product line, and then working on 2 different drug-eluting stent programs, which both went to clinical trials, the analytical chemistry division within our company just continued to grow. And then I continued to get promoted to R&D manager, and then we were acquired. Atrium was acquired, which was a small private company, and then we were acquired by Yettinga, which is a international publicly traded corporation. And so at that point, I continued as R&D manager, helped transition the R&D projects, and then eventually became promoted to Director of Research in Analytical Chemistry, where I am now, where I still continue to work on analytical chemistry and manage that, but also have the privilege of having, with this transition, I've grown into biocompatibility, doing a lot of material assessments for biocompatibility, have a early prototyping research engineering group as well. So even though if I kind of look at it in my mind, Atrium and Yettinga are 2 totally, even though I've had the privilege of working with some people for the entire 15 years that I've been with the company, the way those 2 companies operate is completely different. So I've kind of been through that whole process.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, we'll go to Stephen next.
Okay. Mine's fairly brief. I had gotten my bachelor's and master's at Worcester Polytechnic Institute in the field of chemical engineering. My first job was working as a process engineer for a television manufacturing company, making picture tubes. So you can guess how long that lasted. Now, while I was working there, I was working around lots of people with doctorates. And since the age of 13, I wanted a doctorate in chemical engineering. And so 25 years later, I got it. I got that from Drexel University. Later on, I moved to Massachusetts. I had a long-distance relationship with my wife, and we moved up here. My first job in Massachusetts was with Foster Miller. It's a contract manufacturer, or not contract manufacturer, a contract R&D firm. And so I had a lot of experience with contracts and a high amount of paperwork. Is there a lot of paperwork in medical devices? I can't remember. But my first exposure to medical devices came when I joined Instrumentation Laboratory, or IL. I'd been starting there as, again, a process engineer, and that's where I got the ball rolling in 2009.
Excellent. Andrea?
Awesome. Yeah, so I did my undergraduate degree at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, back in Canada. That was in electrical engineering with a specialization in biomedical engineering. I've been out of college for 3 years now, and I've worked at 4 medical device companies, all in R&D, and 3 of those were co-ops, so I haven't been switching around that much. And yeah, so I wanted to, since this is networking and job transition, as I stepped through the 4 jobs, I was going to talk a bit about the transition period because I really used networking to get all of those jobs. I thought it was very important. So my very first job in the medical device industry was at a startup, about 10-person startup in Vancouver called Light Integra Technology, and they were developing a platelet testing product for like transfusions for blood. And I got this job right out of second year, 0 experience. I'd never worked in medical devices, so I could not get that job because of experience. So I used purely networking to get that job. I met the CEO at a conference and went, talked to him after the conference, got his business card, built a connection, and I sent him my resume, and that's what got me the interview. I went into the interview having the whole website totally memorized, so I knew my stuff when I got in there, but networking got me that interview. And I worked with them for 12 months. And then my next job was at a company called Cardium, another startup in Vancouver, and they're developing an ablation catheter for atrial fibrillation. And I got that job, I got the interview based on just my application, but when I went into the interview, one of my interviewers was somebody who I had met with 2 years prior in an informational interview. So it was somebody that I had already met with, asked questions about the company, they knew I was interested, and that worked out. I'm sure that was very helpful. And I worked with them for 8 months. And then my next step was I was looking for experience with a larger company, and so I knew I had to leave Vancouver for that. So I used my network and asked for suggestions for where I could go, and somebody suggested Humanetics, and I'd worked on one of their products at my first internship at Light Integra. I'd worked on their product called TAG, which was a hemostasis analyzer, so it looks at how blood clots. So I had a really good connection with the company, and they connected me with the CTO and the chief medical officer, so a really good in. That's how I got my interview, and I had a good connection because I'd worked on their product before. So I got the internship from that, and that turned into my first full-time job. And I worked with them for several years on TAG. And then, so at that point, I had realized networking is very important. It helps when you don't have a lot of experience to be able to show you're passionate about something. Building your network was very important because you never know when you're going to run into somebody again. And then using your network was very important. So at this point, I had a job that I was at, and after an appropriate amount of time, I was looking for a different perspective. At that point in my career, I thought a transition would help me to learn and grow faster. So I was looking around, and there was really 4 companies that I found that had interesting products and really good work culture. So I'd been on LinkedIn talking to recruiters, going to events that I thought they would be at, and really watching the career pages. And Boston Scientific posted a job that seemed very interesting and would give me a very different perspective and a different experience. So I applied, and I heard back a couple weeks later that the position had been filled, and they would keep my resume on hold, which typically means you're probably not going to hear back from them. So I was like, that was the most interesting, that seemed like a really great job. But I connected with a recruiter on LinkedIn and would send some messages, ask some questions, just really kept up with what they were doing, and I kept looking around, and about a month and a half later, they reached out that they had another position that opened up, and I think it was because I had kept in contact with them, showed that I was really interested. And so I joined Boston Scientific in August. So I'm part of the new product development team there in the Urology and Pelvic Health Division. And I'm working on the integration of a new product for benign prostatic hyperplasia. So yeah, so I'm now at Boston Scientific. It's been all of those companies have been really, really good opportunities, great experiences. The medical device industry has been wonderful. And I think all of those transitions have showed me how important networking is in transitioning between companies.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to switch things up a little bit, and I'd like to invite the first special guest, which is Barb Feiner, COO of South Autonomy. And these are going to be pearls of wisdom on networking.
Good evening, everybody. So I'm Barbara Feiner, COO of Southie Autonomy. We're a startup robotic software company. So my pearls of wisdom come also from years of being kind of a natural connector. I've always believed in the golden rule of doing unto others, as many of you probably do. There's another related topic. How many of you saw the movie Pay It Forward? So I take those sort of things to heart, where I always try to be available for somebody. But I find that even people who believe in Pay It Forward and the golden rule don't always execute upon that. So I have a little tidbit for everybody that I think will help, and it's based on a book that basically has a message of doing a 5-minute favor for somebody every single day. 5 minutes out of your whole day and helping someone. So I have a way of actually implementing that I would ask all of you to consider. And I think that what happens is many of us either forget what it's like to transition, to be out of work, to need something from somebody, and so we don't put ourselves in a position where someone can actually approach us, because our whole world is much more stable than somebody else's. So a suggestion is to be very active on LinkedIn, in the sense that even if you don't need something from somebody, maybe in the future you will, but more important, do a 5-minute favor and be available on LinkedIn for people to reach out to you, to be able to have a 15-minute informational interview or sit down or ask you to connect to somebody else. A 5-minute favor a day makes the world a better place. So that's my pearl of wisdom. Help people connect by following the golden rule.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Okay, back to our panel. The second question is, when and how did you transition into medical? What was your first medical device industry job?
Me?
I'm going to start with you this time.
Start with me? All right. As I mentioned, my first medical device industry job was instrumentation laboratory. Some of the things that helped me transition into that was leveraging my experience with keeping records and document control, but also my experience in process design and optimization. They recognized that while I didn't have medical device experience, I had some valuable skills that they needed at the time, and so they took a chance on me.
Good chance.
Yeah.
All right. Andrea?
Yeah, as I said, my first medical device job was out of my second year at Light Intrigo Technology. I got in just through networking and really working hard to make sure that they knew how much I wanted to work with them. And yeah, I didn't really have like a lot of, just because it was second year, I didn't have a lot of experience to offer, but I could show that I was going to work really hard. And I had volunteered at Canadian Blood Services, so I had some background that I could show I was interested in their application, so that helped.
Okay, great. Keith?
So I guess from an industrial perspective, Atrium Medical would have been my first job. And what I had actually done was applied for another job, and this recruiter that worked at the same kind of recruiting firm found my resume in the database, contacted me and said, I know there's this company up in New Hampshire that I think it's looking for someone like you. And then he gave me suggestions on how to reformat my resume. And so he was kind of the contact to help me get into, to get the interview at Atrium.
Okay, great. And now I'd like to call Phil Nachman, because you just mentioned recruiters, and he is a recruiter.
How about that?
You're welcome, Phil.
Thank you for the lead-in. As far as pearls, I thought that what Barb said was very nice in terms of paying it forward and all of that. In terms of concrete things, something I'll call soft networking. Do you belong to a softball team? If you have hair, do you ever get a haircut? Do you go to the hairdresser? Just people that you run into in your sort of normal life. Do you go to a PTA meeting or a book club? Or do you have a passion? Whatever that, knitting, model aircraft, doesn't matter. That's how you can meet people, and they can see your passion. You talked about passion and how that came through. So that's pretty interesting to people. You can connect on a personal level beyond the resume. So being out and about, going to meetings, professional groups, trade shows, those are all important things to do. Obviously, you want a good resume, you know, that kind of thing. See and be seen. And of course, talk to a recruiter.
Okay. Okay, the next question is, what is life like in our industry? What makes it different or similar to other industries? And this time we'll start with Keith.
Okay. So I think life in the medical device industry is definitely very challenging. I think you have a lot of pressures in the industry right now from, of course, there's increased regulatory pressures and expectations, as well as a lot of competitive pressures with, you know, a lot of different, companies entering different, product spaces. There's a lot of competition there. But then you also have the challenges with the economics of healthcare, where you need to demonstrate your clinical efficacy, make sure you can get the product reimbursed, make sure you have good distribution channels for your product. So there's a lot of different, I think unlike other industries, I think it's I find it very personally fulfilling and rewarding, but there is a lot of aspects to medical device that I think are very unique to the industry.
Okay, Andrea?
I'll add that it's a very multidisciplinary industry. You have engineers, but you also have to have a very strong clinical knowledge. So you have a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds working together to develop something, and that's something that I find very exciting. And I would also add that quality is such a big part of the medical device industry, because what you're working on is actually potentially going into a human, where it's going to be used on humans, and so being just so careful always and honest and working with integrity, that's a huge part of the industry.
Amen.
Stephen?
Well, I work in operations, and so my group doesn't really do the firefighting. It's our job to make things less flammable. When I have done work in R&D, what I've done is typically far-reaching and more strategic in nature. The thing that I would say is a large difference between medical device work and other industry work that I've done is that the final product actually makes a positive impact on the life of another human being. And I can't always say that about other areas of my career, but in medical device, it's a definite plus.
Okay, great. The next pearls of wisdom will come from Eric Ross. And Eric was most recently a Chief Operating Officer at New England Renewable Energy Systems.
One of the things that's becoming obvious to everybody who's in the room is that networking is a very important aspect of getting to where you want to get to transition, for example, into the medical device world. Well, what is networking? It's very simply, in its truest form, is arranging for and having business meetings or informational meetings with others. I'm going to touch upon two fundamentals that if you understand these and take them to heart, you will be more successful at networking. The first is a statistic and what derives from that statistic. For any business person in this room, which is probably pretty much anybody in the room, if you are talking with another fellow business person, there is an 85% likelihood or better that that person is only 2 steps away from somebody who needs you. Now, the other statistic that goes with that is, unfortunately, there is a less than 10% likelihood that that person is 2 steps away from somebody who wants you. The need is there, the want is not yet there. That defines a good portion of something called the hidden job market. And indeed, the hidden job market is where most jobs are found by job seekers. Not most jobs filled by companies, but the way jobs are found by job seekers, they're in the hidden job market. The other fundamental for success is the mindset. And this is partially driven, if you think about it, by the statistics I just mentioned. The true focus of what you're doing when you're going through the process has to be on relationship, not on employment. Now that seems contrary to conventional wisdom, but if your focus is on relationship and developing or starting new relationships rather than on finding that job, you're going to be more successful. One of the things that comes out of that is that a resume, unfortunately, has no place in the networking process. Why? A resume is used to apply for a job. It's about employment. So one of the things to think about when you are networking is to have other things, such as your own personal marketing tool, to use to tell your story to your target marketplace. 2 fundamentals that will help you in networking.
Thank you. We're going to start with Andrea. What transferable traits or characteristics did you bring from an old job into medical device position or company?
Right. So I kind of went straight into medical device, unless you're counting when I worked at the grocery store before that. So I would say, like, I brought my technical skills. So having an engineering degree, I was able to transfer like that technical foundation. And then I think I think that was like, for me, that was like a big thing that I brought in, since I went quite quickly to that.
Okay. Stephen?
Well, part of what I brought to the table was process optimization, sort of systemic thinking, technical writing, and also statistical analysis.
Okay, great. And Keith?
So yeah, depends on how far back you want to go. If I look at, so maybe take a combination of my work as a postdoc and research faculty, during that time I really learned how to apply what I knew, right? So a lot of times when you come out of graduate school with a doctorate or a higher degree, you're trained to work alone, right? You're pretty much the Rambo in the lab that has to get the project done, or at least was my experience. But working, what you have to do, and this is what I learned in the postdoc, is you learn how to collaborate and work with other people. So I think that experience, when I went to Atrium, I was already familiar. I had this great, unique experience where I worked with all these different disciplines in the lab. So when I went to Atrium, which was also interdisciplinary, I had that experience already. So I would say that ability to work with other people in other disciplines and communicate ways to solve problems together, but kind of do that in a way that wasn't completely technical to my core discipline, I think was key, to try to help work together to get to the core of what was the problem we were trying to work together and solve. So I think that was really a critical skill. And certainly I would say, if I go really back, I was a manager at McDonald's for a number of years while I was going to college. And so I will say that, and that obviously gives you some very interesting managerial challenges with being a closing manager at McDonald's. But I will say some of those management skills I learned very early on, being in management today, I still use some of those skills.
Okay.
So the
Great.
free fries?
No free for
No.
not anymore, not anymore. But I do still have a few connections up at the McDonald's in Maine, so I might be able to help you out.
Okay, next I'd like to call to the podium David Kaufman. David Kaufman's a Senior Sales Executive for Selenium Capital.
Networking, it's kind of a blocking and tackling function in a sales and marketing executive's job. I go to lots of events. I spend 10 hours a week on LinkedIn making connections to the people that I meet. And I think it was Barb who said, get on LinkedIn, be available for 5 minutes. I'm available to everybody for 5 hours if they need it. I have done webinars with Lisa on LinkedIn, who's hosted some coaching events. I have attended untold numbers of LinkedIn events. So I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. I think I have about 3,800 connections. Most of those I know from events like this and others that I attend all year long. So I say be a giver. Give your time, which Barbara outlined, and give away what you can give away, and then when you ask for something, somebody's going to help you. So I belong to a real hardcore networking group. We pay money. We commit to each other to be there every 2 weeks for 3 hours, starting at 7:30 in the morning. We really take it seriously. You don't have to do that to be great at networking. You just have to show up, bring business cards, talk to people, be able to be giving, and you will get. So we say givers get. People who just want to get, nobody wants to do anything with those people. So don't be one of those people. So I think those are the key things that I believe in. I try to do 120 things a week for myself. That's just a goal I've had for 10 or 15 years. 120 things could be an email, a phone call, send something to the lawyers, review a contract. That's about 2 or 3 things an hour. It's not hard to do. But when you're networking and you're looking for work, you've got to have some goals that you hold yourself accountable to. So those are my really key things. I'd say goals, giving, and be able to use your networks. If you don't belong to a networking group, you probably went to a university, you have a degree, use your alumni contact network. I sponsor the Boston Badgers Network. We have a LinkedIn group. I work on the Big Ten, so we have networking for people that are in the Big Ten or in Wisconsin alums. I'm sure your universities have them too, especially if you're local. You've got a huge alumni network. Talk to those people. They're always going to take your phone call. Hopefully they'll give you a cup of coffee, or you can buy them a cup of coffee and start your 1,000 cup of coffee journey, which I think is really important for people to do. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, back to questions. This is particularly touching to me, which is core values. So I'm wondering, what are 3 of your core values, and how what you are doing today is consistent with your core values? So we'll start with Keith.
I would say 3 of my core values are honesty, integrity, and perseverance. So I think it is very, it's very critical. I think, Andrea had mentioned how important quality is to what we do. So I think that ensuring that you yourself always approach everything with a high degree of quality, ensuring the safety of our products and for those patients that are getting those treatments and our life-saving devices is, absolutely. I take that responsibility very seriously. But being in management, it's just as critical that I really build a culture within my group that they believe in that same thing, because I can't possibly see everything that goes on in the lab or in the work that we do. So I think building that culture with the people you're with or you work with, that to have that same mindset is absolutely critical, because you can't catch all those stray balls. You need your colleagues and your people within your group to help as well.
Okay, Andrea?
I would say, so integrity, compassion, and grit. So integrity is like honesty and quality and everything you just said. Compassion, so really focusing on the person that you're helping and approaching things with empathy and caring and trying to do good. And then grit would be like working hard, not giving up. And just, I guess that would kind of be like perseverance.
Yeah.
Okay, Stephen?
Mine are honesty, integrity, and a strong work ethic.
Is that all you'd like to
was
say,
three.
Ryan? Right? That's
Those
okay.
were all very similar, just
Yeah, I
like
was
slightly
gonna
Yeah,
different
that's,
wording.
that's why I didn't dive into it very much, as we
Okay,
But you really need that perseverance, I think, to get when
Yeah.
you're working on some of these products and to get it through the regulatory pathway, the clinical pathway. It can take years of your life to do that. So I think you really have to have that grit or that perseverance to make it through.
yeah. Very good. Okay, next I'd like to call Phil Kaziaski. He's a senior software engineer at Draper Labs, and his title is How to Make an Impact at an Event.
I've attended many networking events over the years, and I include events like tonight, which is where networking is only one part of it, as well as ones where networking is solely part of it, and even conferences, because that offers the opportunity to connect with a number of individuals in one setting and in a short time. How do you make the most of this? Well, a few things will help you out with that. One is to be prepared. This involves not only knowing who you hope to meet there, which is sometimes made easier if you have access to an attendee list ahead of time, but also think about where your conversations may go. For example, at tonight's event, I came in knowing that the subject of medical devices was a likely subject to come up along the way, so you could be prepared along that line. Another one is to know how to work a room, and for that I need to go no further than to point out the insert that we have here in our program. As the event goes along, you also can ask people about who they have met so far, and you want to think about who you've met and who you can connect them with as you meet new people. As you hear their story, you can start thinking about how you can help them and who would be a natural connection. If there are speakers or a panel like tonight, make a point of going to speak to them as well. Pay attention to what they've talked about so that you have something that you can offer, and besides just simply saying thank you and just and sounding like a fan. You want to come up and actually offer something and have a conversation with them. I'm sure everybody up here tonight would appreciate having a conversation with all of us afterwards. And last but not least, after you've gathered all the contact information and business cards over the course of the event, make sure you follow up with people as well. And that alone will make you stand out, because you'd be surprised by how many people don't do that. Thank you.
Thank you. What and who was helpful to you in your search? Did you have a mentor or a coach to help you along? Stephen?
Yes. Actually, being a member of MedDev Group was very, very helpful to me in learning to network and learning to talk to people and be relatively relaxed doing it. Sometimes when we had the pizza over at Bertucci's, it was a good icebreaker, but it helped me learn more about the medical industry and some of the bits of learning to have contacts that generate into job leads. Actually, Lisa was one of the people who I met through MDG, and she offered her assistance as a coach. I won one of the raffles before. And I also participated in a mentoring program that MDG had launched, and to my chagrin, I had actually not worked with that mentor as much as I should have, and so as a result, I didn't get as much out of it as I could have. And that's actually a regret of mine, because I think that having a mentor, someone who can be a sounding board, someone who can tell you, hey, that's not a bright idea, is, with all honesty, one of the ways that you can learn to improve. And sometimes takes an outside vision to see what you're projecting.
Okay, excellent. Andrea?
Yeah, I've had a lot of mentors, some amazing mentors. So that person who took my resume, he is probably one of the most influential people besides my parents, in deciding on any sort of career decision. I will talk to him whenever I'm thinking about making some sort of change, and he'll just provide feedback and listen. And I have several mentors like that who I've been in contact with over several years, and they typically are people who I'd worked with or employers. And yeah, they've been huge in my career so far.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And Keith?
Yeah, so I've had, again, I think similar to Andrew's experience, and I've had different types of mentors. Certainly, I've had my current supervisor has really been a mentor for me to learn more of the engineering side of medical device, coming from a core scientific background. But I've also had, had the privilege to work with Lisa when I was trying to figure out the next move in my career, and been taking business classes to kind of bulk up my management and business knowledge. So it kind of helped me to discern and kind of figure out that strategy for myself.
Great. Thank you. Next, I want to call Alan Rader up, recently from Evaluate, and his title is Organized Networking.
3,000 contacts. I thought I had a lot. I have about 1,200. So you are a lot older than me, though, David. So there's a couple different facets I wanted to touch on. I am in transition currently, so networking while you're in transition is a little bit different than when you're at a current job. But from that perspective, when you're looking for a job, I've leveraged things like LinkedIn. Certainly, you get a good sense of not only who wants to help you, but who can help you. So 1,200 contacts. I've met a lot of people through organizations like MDG, which is a terrific organization, and just through my career. But that's certainly one facet to kind of reconnect with people. It was actually something that I'd realized going through this process of transition, that there were so many people that I hadn't been in contact with for a number of years. So it's actually been kind of refreshing to reconnect. So in terms of networking, both via things like LinkedIn or remotely, phone, email, what have you, a combination has to be with in person as well. It's a connected world today. You can't always be to events and in person, but a lot of the same facets I really think do apply. So in networking, I think there's always new people to meet. So there's a lot of new faces here. I've met some nice people tonight already, who I think I've got some common connections with. Give to get is certainly a great facet. You've got to be willing to give to be able to get. There was a gentleman I met earlier tonight. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but I think I was able to point him in the right direction with some other people to network with in this area. And you have to listen. Ask good questions and listen, and that's really the best advice I can give anybody. If you listen, that's going to help you in spades. Thanks.
Thanks, Alan. There have been a lot of changes in this industry. Given these changes, what would you advise people wanting to get into the industry? And I'll start with you, Andrea.
I would say be adaptable. So companies are changing. There's a lot of competition, and so you might see companies that are downsizing, and then they're all of a sudden like growing really quickly, or the management team is changing, and just being, nimble and ready for changes and embracing changes. I think that if you're able to do that, then that will make it a lot better and easier.
Okay, Stephen?
Yes, the technology is always changing. There's always the next great thing coming around the corner. But my advice would be to really dig deep into the fundamentals if you're a technical person. Physics doesn't change. Chemistry doesn't change. Knowing those things and being able to adapt into whatever the role becomes, I think is a very valuable trait. Transferable skills like statistics or technical writing, things where you can provide value, will help grease the skids on getting in front of that person who is in the medical device arena who has an opening that they're looking to fill. So, I mean, grassroots, fundamentals, it's all good.
Okay. Keith?
So I think being in the unique kind of position at this stage of my career where I've been at one one industrial company for a very long time. I think that what I've sort of really learned is, I agree, with Stephen on the importance of the fundamentals, and agree with you, Andrea, on being flexible. I think, the position that I've taken is, I'm not a person that's really happy with staying in one place. I have a constant need to learn and develop and evolve skills. So I think, and also what I've sort of, as I've gotten a little bit into some business classes, is really marketing internally within the organization I'm in now. And also, there are opportunities likely in your organization. So I think trying to grow outside, like if you're in science or engineering, and trying to grow in other areas of your organization, or even looking at, you have a set of skills in your toolbox, and you say, should I think about getting a RAC certification on the side, or should I pursue an MBA to kind of broaden out? I'm a really technical person, but with a business background, I'll be able to really broaden out my experience to be able to have a combination of business and technical skills. How many people have that capability? So I know for myself, I always look at, okay, if I had to transition today to another job, what skills am I developing that I can use to communicate to another potential employer or someone else that I could use to help them? Ultimately, in my mind, I'm always looking to solve problems, whether that's we have business problems we need to solve, we have regulatory problems, scientific or technical problems, but I always look at how do I continue to evolve my skills and add additional tools that kind of gives me that personal competitive advantage and builds my knowledge set that I can use to continue to be of value to the organizations that I'm in. Because again, as noted, some of the skills that you develop early may not be what you need later. So I think it's important to always kind of be aware of where your business is, where the industry is going, and to continue and push yourself to say, okay, yeah, maybe regulatory is not my thing, maybe I want to focus more on quality, but kind of pushing you outside of your kind of normal comfort zone into other areas of med device, I think is something that I've kind of personally lived by and I think makes sense and helps.
Sure, Andrea has something to add.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, when you were saying that made me think about, so the last role that I was in, there was some changes going on, and so my background is electrical engineering, but I ended up working in kind of like a reagent, like manufacturing kind of role. So I was trying to be like adaptable, and that turned out to be an amazing experience. So being open to trying a totally different role, I learned so much, and I got to work with all different people. So being adaptable and like really embracing change and jumping at different opportunities, even if they're not really what you thought you'd be doing, they can turn out to be like really positive.
Excellent.
And I'd like to just add on what you said. I think, part of what my group does now, or we have some quality control testing. So I think being able to understand the end result of what you need to do for the product, still working in R&D, it makes you better at R&D because you can say, oh, I'm not just gonna, make something and throw it over the wall, and then poor Steve's gonna have to deal with it when it's in operations.
I sometimes throw it back.
Which I'm sure still happens, but from R&D, it just understanding now, the kind of the complete process.
Yeah.
I think it really helps with, I'm better at what I do in R&D because I'm thinking about, and I'm reaching out to, the Steve equivalent in my organization to say, okay, this is what I think we're going to do, or regulatory or whatever, and say, all right, here's the problem we need to do. This is what I'm working on. Does this make sense to you? Is there something else that I'm missing? Because I think the more that you can, I think you can learn from a lot of people in your organization, from their skill set and knowledge, but then B, I think you can build up those relationships. And again, even though these people are within your organization now, those people may leave to other companies, and they may say, hey, Keith, there's this great role, they're looking for someone with this that needs these skills. Why don't you come, come talk to this person I know. So I think that's another way of networking that I know I've certainly used with working with a lot of different people over the course of my career, where I've made a lot of connections that way.
Excellent. Well, that ends the portion of the talk with structured questions, but we're still going to continue on with our special guest. The next person I'd like to call up to the podium since 85% of you are new, you haven't met this person, but his name is Jerry Shapiro. And Jerry is the heart and soul of MDG. I've been fortunate enough to be working with him from 2004 on, and we are the oldest members of the board, and we represent the old school MDG. But Jerry is just someone that's always giving of his time and his energy and his knowledge to new people. So if you don't know Jerry Shapiro, you really need to know Jerry Shapiro. And he's going to talk today, and I would go on all day about Jerry, so I'll just leave it there.
John, there's no love relationship here, John. You're safe. So I was asked to talk about the elevator pitch, usually 30 seconds. So I could give the typical engineering boring elevator speech and say, hi, my name is Dr. Shapiro. I'm president of Flow Inc., and we have developed a treatment for 500 million women who have a disease that decreases the quality of their life. And everybody would say, yeah, who cares? So when you give an elevator pitch, you have to grab people's attention in the first 10 seconds. And you have to do it in such a way that they form a question in their mind that they ask you. So when people ask me, what do? I say, I make women happy. Then they look at me and say, he's too old to be a gigolo. What does he really do? And then I say, well, you know, we treat a disease that makes women miserable. And that gets the conversation started. So think about what you do. Get that 10-second nugget that's going to get people to start a conversation with you, and then have the conversation. Towards the end of the conversation, be sure to make some arrangement to contact them again. So be sure to have your own cards, get their card, ask to get together for coffee, maybe make a tentative schedule if it's not totally down to the date and time, and follow up. So networking is an active process, and you're the energy source. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, after that elevator speech, I just wanted to ask if you guys wrote out your value statement. And do we have 2 individuals that would like to volunteer their value statement, since it goes so well with Jerry's recent elevator speech? Okay.
So following Jerry's advice, I say I make my customers happy and my boss successful.
Company happy and boss successful. Okay, excellent.
Okay, I'll just kind of fake it.
Okay.
My name is Artie Barat. I'm a software engineer who makes his customers, his company happy with development, as well as following up with software support.
Okay, great. Thanks for volunteering. The next person, I can say, needs no introduction, but again, a lot of you are new here. But in the networking world, this is the woman you want to talk to. She is going to talk about insights from teaching networking to cardiologists. And her name is Diane Darling.
So this summer, I was hired to teach 50 European cardiologists how to network. The scenario was that there was one Brit, otherwise everybody at this conference had English as a second language. They were the young professionals, and they were getting ready to go into the Congress where they were going to meet the rock stars of their industry. Many of them were electrophysiologists. And I had worked with some medical, some doctors and some medical device companies in the past, and I was terrified, because to me, they were doing the most amazing things possible about saving lives. At the cocktail party about 7 o'clock, when I was all done, I was happy it was over, and I was talking with Iceland and Georgia from the former Soviet Union. The 3 of us were having a conversation, and there are 2 electrophysiologists in the entire country of Iceland, among other things that I had learned. And at one point I had said, why don't you ask the gentleman over there to join our conversation? They looked at me, and I was confused. I was scared to go talk to this person because my sense was this was some rock star in this industry, and they were scared to walk over because they didn't know how to start a conversation. And I forget if it was Russia or Iceland who said, "You show us how." So I walked to this man who looked like Jeff Goldblum, and he's all by himself drinking a glass of wine. And I said, "Would you like to join our conversation?" And he said, "That would be very kind." And I will remember that response for all my days, because even though I couldn't go in and break into someone's heart, we were having a heart-to-heart. And so what I shared with them is, you cannot teach me what you know. I can teach you what you know. And so the soft skills, the networking, the building relationships are so incredibly important. I'm going to do a quick recap of a couple things that I've heard. One is stay in touch. I'm going to encourage you 4 times a year. You can do this on MailChimp, whatever else you want to do. Send a shout out. Say what you've done. Be in touch with people, because then when you need them, it's not such a big project. 2, you never know. You never know if you're talking to a McDonald's night manager or someone who's in medical devices. You really don't ever know. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people absolutely shoot themselves in the foot by being a jerk to somebody who could actually help them out. Be on LinkedIn. You're welcome to invite me. Please customize all your invitations. Right now, I probably have 400 invitations in my inbox. You know, I'm pretty good with names, not as much anymore, but customize invitations. Next thing, introverts unite. I tested as an introvert, and a lot of people don't believe this. I'm from the Midwest. Go Midwesterners. And so actually people in New England think I'm crazy. I'm an introvert who's a friendly person. So everybody here is afraid of me. Because I will go say hi, but you wear me out. You absolutely wear me out. The introvert says, go home and be with your cat. You know, it's enough talking, leave me alone. So part of what it is if you're an introvert, it's okay. You can do this really, really well. You do need this in a measured space. You do need to have a couple of networking buddies. The Wall Street Journal wrote about my way to get out of conversations. I tap my necklace, and I have buddies who know to come and get me out of the conversation. Always talk to people who are alone. This is my new silver bullet, and I've been using it for a long, long time. If you want to practice this, one silly way to practice approaching people who you're not in a comfortable situation is the next time you're on the T, say the next stop is mine, and ask a question. The person here they're getting rid of you, but you get to ask a question. So I do this in situations that are very comfortable, that help me build my confidence. Thank your parents that they told you when you left the house, don't talk to strangers. You're a grown-up now. Understand the difference between a good stranger and a bad stranger. I am unemployed every day. When you're a consultant, I am unemployed every day. This is exhausting. This is hard work. Be sure you take care of yourself in the process. I will also share with you I heard this from the Pew Research. The phone is the new blankie. We are so attached to our phone. We're not willing to leave our phone. It has to be by our side. And so I'm going to really encourage you to learn how to manage your phone, because this is a barrier saying, do not talk to me. The Wall Street Journal did an article the other day about the earbuds, the ones that don't have the strings. You know, the whole thing is people leave them in because it's like, don't bother me. So part of it is you can solve someone's problem. You can solve someone's problem. You need to find out through networking who that person is. All right, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, now I'd like to open it up to all of you to ask questions. We're doing great on time, so we'll take a couple questions, and then we might get to stick in a fun game to do before we network once again. And we have to be out of here by between 8:30 and 9, so it gives you a little bit of time. So who has the first question for any one of us? Yes.
Sure, I have a quick question. Andrea has been in a number of positions, partly because they were interns or co-ops. And Keith, I think you've been someplace for a very long period of time, right? do you think how do you bring value to your organization? You know, you can as a longtime employee and you can as a short-term employee. You know, when you're hiring somebody, do you look for somebody that's been staying places 5 years, or people that have been moving every 2 years, or people who've been staying places 20 years?
So I think I didn't know if you wanted to start.
You can go first.
So I think I think when I will say first and foremost, it was not my master plan to be at one company for 15 years.
Me neither.
That was not my original objective. For me, it's always about learning, developing skills, and am I getting fulfillment in the job that I do, right? And obviously, there's, like anything, there's ebbs and flows in that. So I think for me, the way that, and I'll get back to the hiring question, is I always look to challenge myself, and I look at the needs of the business. I try to basically say, okay, this is sort of an unmet need within the organization, and maybe me and my team are not ready to serve that need today, but I can guide my team to get there. And one example would be biocompatibility. We were basically asked to remediate our biocompatibility files and documentation and enhance that. And as a result of going through that process, myself and the entire team learned, and now we own that process. We are now not only serving the biocompatibility of our site, where we were asked to remediate, we are now actually providing that support to other sites within the organization. So for me, that's one example. So I think really looking at the needs of the business and transitioning, I see my role as director is sort of transitioning the group to kind of continue to identify people within the group that are capable of developing some skills in different areas. And I try to challenge people where they are in their career. So I try to say, okay, I'm going to give this person this project to help them grow this skill, because I can see, A, they have my perfect scenario is, A, they have the interest, and B, there's the business need to do so. I think as far as hiring people, I think is, obviously if someone's, moving jobs every year, that's going to give me a little bit of pause. However, when I look at, hiring someone, I always look at their skills and their experience, and that's kind of like maybe a third. What really is very important is what's their ability to answer them. So I'll ask certain questions, and there's no right answer for me. What's more important to me is how are they going to answer that question? How do they respond to adversity, and how do they work with others? So what I've learned is people that are successful within my group are not just the people that have strong technical knowledge. They're the people that are flexible, and they have the ability to work with others. Those are the people, you kind of need that combination of technical and soft skills. So did that answer your question?
And I would add, I think it's important in teams to have a bit of both. It's important to have that institutional knowledge about the products and why things were done the way that they were done. You don't want to lose that. But I think there is also value in bringing in new ideas. So I hadn't intended to transition at that point originally. I'd been there for several years at Hemonetics. But since that was my first job out of school, I didn't really have another point of view. I didn't have another perspective, another data point. So I think just early in my career, I thought I could grow faster and be more effective if I knew a couple ways how things can be done. If I had something to compare my first experience to. But I definitely think there is value in having both. Having that knowledge, but then also bringing in fresh ideas from other places. Does that answer?
Yeah, thank you.
I would add, though, one thing that you do learn being at an organization for a long time that I think you can't get any other way is you'll make a decision 10 years ago. You'll say, okay, we made a particular material or vendor selection or a particular design decision. And then you find out 8 or 10 years ago, later, of complications that arose from that decision that you obviously didn't realize at the time. So I do find being an advantage of being in an organization a long time is you kind of learn, if you say I'm here for 2 years and you think you made all the right decisions and you leave, you may miss out on some of those important lessons where you realize, boy, that wasn't as good a decision as I thought I made at the time, because now I got to fix it, and it's messy. I'm dealing with a product out in the field. So I think that there's some of those lessons that I have learned the hard way that I think have only made me better when we go to design the next product, because now I can kind of look for those potential pitfalls right in the beginning of a new product or a new process.
Yeah, and there was, at Humanetics, one person that I worked with had been there for a very long time, probably he'd been there maybe 30 years. And whenever I would think, maybe we should try this, I'd always go and talk to him, and quite often it's oh, I tried that 15 years ago. You'll run into this issue, and so it's okay, so I'm gonna go and what about this? Oh, I tried that 12 years ago. So he saved me so much time because he'd been there for so long, he knew everything. So it's so important to have that person so that he's the knowledge holder in the company, and so I think it's so valuable to have people that have been there a long time.
So then I will also add to that, though, and say, sorry, I will also add to that and say, as someone in an organization a long time, you have to be careful with that as well. So you have the knowledge, and you can say, we tried it, but what you have to realize, or I always kind of keep in the back of my mind is, yes, we tried it, but we tried it under a certain set of conditions. So maybe that approach wasn't the right approach for that particular moment in time with that set of conditions. So I think you have to be open to, and you have to push yourself to be open to that and say, okay, well, this didn't work for us before, but maybe let's give it, another crack again and see maybe if we try a little bit of a different spin on that, maybe that will work. So I think, again, there's kind of challenges, I think, both ways, both with, transitions and both with staying. But yeah, I always have to try and, you have that experience. It's easy oh, we saw this before, but then sometimes, again.
Having a new person always being why?
Yep.
Why'd you do that? Why didn't you do this? That can be helpful.
It's very helpful.
Yeah, so both.
Okay. Stan?
So I owe Lisa an apology. She introduced me and I wasn't in the room.
Here, come down to this microphone so you can be taped. Stan is our head of membership, and I was just going to talk about membership till I saw him sneak back in the room.
So again, I owe Lisa an apology. I stepped out to do some membership work and realized that she was introducing me. So I am Stan Wharton. I'm the chair of the membership committee with MDG. I hope you've all enjoyed tonight's forum for networking. We do hold 10 forums per year. We are always wanting to have more members because there are benefits to being a member. We are an organization of individuals. We like our individuals to interact with each other. We think this is a great forum to do that, especially before and after the forums. So if you'd like to be a member, please come see us at the desk. Go on the website, you can sign up, and that'll give you access to all of the different features of the website once you're a member. And we hope that you enjoy it, and we hope to see you again at one of the next forums. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Dan. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Hello, my name is Melissa Salmon, and I had a question, I think, geared towards Keith. I was wondering how new ideas happen in medical devices. How much is it the customer needs coming in, and how much is it innovation going out to the customer?
So I think for new ideas, there's several different sources, right? So you're absolutely right. I think some of the best ideas obviously come from unmet customer needs, but you can also get ideas from other engineers that maybe have learned about through our we'll get feedback from our product complaint system. We might find out about some design issues or certain features that the customer wants. So we have engineering kind of provides that input to our innovation process. The customer certainly does. The other thing too is we also will take a look at what's the IP for other competitors in the space. And oftentimes what I see is you'll get some kind of early indications of what other organizations are doing in the IP long before the product comes. So of course the challenge with the IP is Generally, it's written very broad, so you're not exactly sure what the product's going to be, but you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. And then I think kind of maybe another area would be academics, right? So I think, and that's an advantage of being so close to the Boston area of Massachusetts, is there are a lot of great ideas in academics. They're really kind of looking for that new novel technology. Of course, being an industry, the challenge is this is a really great idea, but it's not going to survive sterilization. So there's that challenge of there's a lot of great ideas, but then there's a lot of, being an industry, like having to translate, see if you can translate that into something practical that you can manufacture, thousands of those. So sometimes that's definitely a challenge to be able to do that.
Okay, maybe one more question or two more?
Okay. So yeah, my name is Todd Tierney, and my question is more for, as you're looking for people, as you're looking to hire, do you have a focus for full-time employees versus a contract or a consultant position or consultant roles?
I know Boston Scientific is hiring. They have like hundreds of job openings right now, so if anyone's looking, you can come and talk to me afterward. And I know Humanetics also has a lot of job openings, so there's a lot of positions that are looking right now. And I think they both have they'll hire contractors for like specific roles, but if it's something that's like core to the company, having the full-time person so that you can keep that institutional knowledge is important. So if it's maybe like verification, sometimes they'll outsource that, but I think like the core development stuff, full-time. That's what I've seen.
I was going to say that it depends on the project that you're dealing with. If it's a short-term kind of thing where it's going to be done in 6 months, yeah, you hire a contract employee for that. But in general, bringing someone on board and having them take up the learning curve and things like that, you're investing a lot of time into that person. You want them to stay. So if in my company, we have exploited the idea of temp to perm, where someone will start off with a 6-month gig and then will renew their contract, except instead of renewing it, we offer them a position.
Yeah, I think in my experience in my organization is we typically only hire contractors for needs or expertise that we don't have in the organization. So if we need a particular type of expertise, like when we're doing our drug-eluting stent program, for instance, we needed a toxicologist because we're dealing with a new chemical entity and we didn't know how to fully navigate that process. So we used them in that instance. Or clinical experts. We usually get clinical experts or nurses that we'll talk with about new product concepts. I think, kind of building off what Steve said, I'm not really a personal fan of short-term. The type of work that we do requires a lot of training and knowledge of the products. So I'm not really a fan of like temporary employees. I usually, when I have to hire and add to the headcount, I'm typically going for perm. I know other engineering groups in my organization actually do a lot of like co-ops. We'll bring co-ops on, or temporary people for short-term projects. But I'm either using a contractor because I need specialists, or I'm just going to bring someone on board because I want to bring someone on board, and it's going to take a lot of time and money to invest in that person. So I just prefer bringing permanent people on when I have that need.
That's my ringtone too, by the way.
Okay, I promised you guys a very quick game before we get to networking. So unless there's any other dying questions, everybody, there's one hand. All right, maybe quickly. Maybe we'll just answer by one person.
Hi, I'm Marie Cloutier. Thank you all. What I wanted to mention was more of a comment on the discussion of core values. So to all of you, and ties into what Diane Darling was saying. In terms of core values, one that's always been important to me is having a sense of humor. And sense of humor means not taking yourself too seriously. Helps you keep your heart open to be able to learn more, to be able to see a person more. to be able to understand what the process is or the situation is in front of you, because you relax, the other person relaxes, and I think that's extremely valuable. And it helps you treat people more kindly. Talked about being kind, and that I said, okay, now I have to say it. So I think that makes your relationships much deeper.
Okay. Thanks, Marie. And that gentleman right behind.
Hello, my name is McKinley, and my question, just for whoever wants to answer it, was when developing a product, how do you network to gain valuable customer insight and feedback, and how do you prioritize that in a productive way?
Well, typically what my company will do is they'll attend symposia and things like that and talk to key opinion leaders. Our commercial and marketing group has lots of contacts with various specialists in the field of what we do, which is atrial fibrillation treatment. And what we'll do is we'll sit down and discuss what the marketing group finds as far as the voice of the customer. And if you're not familiar with what a Pew matrix is, it's P-U-G-H, you can look it up. It's a method of distilling those ideas into almost an algorithm that gives you what's the most bang for the buck, what's going to get somebody wanting to buy your product.
Okay, great. Now, I promised you something, so I always want to deliver what I promised. And this is called Needs and Leads. And we used to do this way back in the beginning days of MDG, and I led many of these talks. And this is just going to be a couple minutes to maybe find out somebody that has a need and then somebody that has a lead that you could go to or network with or establish a relationship with. So, for example, like I could say, I have a need, and my need is for a new virtual assistant. So if one of you out there knows of somebody that has a virtual assistant, you'd raise your hand, and then I would connect with you, and we would both be happy. So, you ready to try it?
Sure.
You can't lose. Does anybody have a need? Phil, what's your need? And it can't be every open position you have.
For the next 5 years. But more today, project managers in medical device development.
Okay. Anybody else have a need?
Microphone.
This used to be super active. And
A needy group.
So can I say something? There was a gentleman here who Ubered in from Watertown. Anybody live near Watertown and wants to give this guy a ride home? Okay, we got some water. So if you're still here, here's some people who will take you home to Watertown. There you go. Okay. So part of what I'd like to just offer with this is, so often in these situations, we think it has to be about work. We think it has to be about something, really serious. When I've done something similar, we've bought and sold cars. We've gotten, kids jobs, summer jobs. We found somebody who helps. One woman, she said, my husband thought he could take down the wallpaper. He actually couldn't, And we repaired, bikes. I mean, I did this at the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, and the biggest part of it was actually stuff that would need people to get moved out of dorms and whatnot. So think broadly about how you can maybe make this exercise, along those lines.
Right. Like nobody had a VA assistant for me, huh? That's okay. Yes, sir.
I have a recently arrived teenager, so how to keep my teenager and my wife from fighting.
All right. Yeah, that's a good question, though.
Boarding school.
Boarding school. All right. Are you ready for some drawings? Because we have some drawings tonight. Where is the...
The Red Sox just got a grand slam.
Score. At least 72.
And can you get me one of my books, pretty please? Oh, wait, first I'm going to use you to pull the drawings. Carolyn Carlson left her cards, and I know that she's doing a couple drawings.
Which is Carol.
This is Carolyn's clothing.
Okay.
And this is the other drawing for the 4 things that I mentioned up front, and I'll repeat what they are. They are a power networking CD, 1-hour consult with me, a resume review, and
Your book. Motivation Now.
my book, Motivation Now. Yes, those are the 4 things. So we'll pull that, and then from hers, I don't know how many she wanted pulled. 3? Okay. So this first one will be for the CD. Oh, and if you guys could do me a favor, and I really, really appreciate this, and I'm asking it up front, that yellow piece of paper is super helpful to us as we plan from year to year and to incorporate different things. And again, on the top, that MC means mini consult. If you'd like a free consultation with me, just circle that. And the resume one means there'll be a resume review, and it might be on a webinar or it might be individual, but I have 2 companies that I work with that do resume reviews. And if you work with me, I can get you your resume reviewed for free. It's just a little extra bonus. So the first thing is for the power networking. And this is Roy Stornham. Congratulations, Roy. I saw him come in. I don't see him right now. Okay. The next thing is going to be for my book. Cardio Focus, Stephen Colbert. Excellent. And how many people, you know you can go home tonight and act like you've just seen a celebrity, because we know who Steve Colbert is, right?
Because Keith is here.
Oh, yeah, because Keith's here, too. Okay, so a book for Steve.
Oops, took 2.
Well, we need 2 more.
Okay.
One is for the resume, and one is for time with me. So we have Corrine Milewski, okay? And we have Andrea Finn, sales professional. Okay, so both of you guys, I'll see you and we'll set up. So now for the 3, go ahead, you're good at this, you're better at this than I. Dale Larson. Is Dale still here? Okay. He's still going to win. William Sullivan, Bill Sullivan, you won. I don't know exactly what she was giving away, but $100. I know it was clothing. And the last one is Stephen Colbert. Wow. I guess when you're hot, you're hot.
Go buy a Powerball ticket now.
I will. Could we do one thing that we did at the beginning that I didn't quite get it to see before, was the engineers stand up, please? And please remain standing if you have catheter experience.
Oh, boy.
Developing them or wearing them?
We're open-minded. We'll take both.
Now, if you finished your yellow form, if you can just pass it down to the end, and we can, and John Robert will nicely pick them up. I think I have my new virtual assistant. He lives with me. I've recently shown him how to put business cards in my computer. But And I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. We know that your time is limited and that you have choices in the places and things that you do. But to come out and spend 3 hours with us was, very, very nice. And hopefully you found the evening helpful. And I want to thank the lovely panel that we have and lovely special guests that contributed their knowledge, because together it makes the program a remarkable program.
And thank
So
you,
thank
Lisa.
you.
Yes, thank you very much,
for
Lisa.
hosting.
Thanks.